It's okay. Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. Sorry, there's some technical difficulties, but here I am, and hopefully you can all see me. I'm joining from my phone. I was on my computer, but we ran into some slight technical difficulties on this Monday. It is Monday, March 27th, and as 2024 rolls around, we have a lot to cover in terms of Senate races, as well as other down ballot races. And today I want to focus particularly on the Senate, because as of 2024, there are 33 Senate seats up for re-election, and every single one will remain critical if Democrats want to win in 2024. One state that I'm paying very close attention to is Missouri, where Josh Hawley is running against Lucas Kunce, who is an amazing candidate. He is a veteran. He is someone who isn't afraid to stand up to Josh Hawley, and he actually believes the January 6th insurrection happened, unlike Josh Hawley. So, Lucas, I'm so grateful for your voice. I'm so grateful that you are running, and thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Yeah, absolutely, Victor. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. So I want to ask you why you chose to run in 2024, or I guess for the 2024 Senate race, and why now?
Yeah, here's the thing, right? Missourians are tired of fake politicians taking advantage of them, using their connections, the people who fund their campaigns to strip Missouri for parts. And Josh Hawley, he's one of those traditional country club Republicans who doesn't care about Missouri at all, doesn't care about the people here, and then went, completely crazy in order to try to get himself a little bit of power. We launched our campaign on January 6th of this year because that's the day he really showed everybody who he is. 1 second he's putting his fist up when he thinks it's going to get him some power. And then the second he realizes it's not, he's skittering out the back door and running away. And so, Missourians don't like to be embarrassed. He's not popular here. A recent poll showed his approval is 42 and his disapproval is 43. We have a state where Missourians are willing to switch, ballots for who they vote for, depending on the guy. And I spent 13 years in the Marine Corps. I deployed to Iraq. I deployed to Afghanistan. I worked out of the Pentagon. I didn't spend all that time serving my country to see guys like Josh Hawley just absolutely ruin it.
So Missouri is a really interesting state politically because, it's a red state, I think, but there have been Democratic and Republican senators that have kind of been switching back and forth for the past couple of decades, frankly. I'm wondering, what do you think of, I guess, how representative is Josh Hawley of Missouri, and are people kind of paying attention to what he's trying to do to the state?
Well, I think actually what a lot of people are paying attention to is what he's not trying to do for the state, and that's nothing, right? All he cares about is whatever his presidential ambitions are, and so he doesn't bring money back to the state, he doesn't focus on it, he doesn't spend much time here. Emblematic of that is for the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs were playing the Bengals, and so he made a bet with J.D. Vance, whoever's team loses, if my team loses, I'll give you Missouri barbecue. If your team loses, you'll give me Cincinnati barbecue or whatever. And he named a barbecue joint that was in Kansas. Because the guy didn't even care about us enough to do a proper Google search to figure the place out. And so it's just, he doesn't care about the state. He's never around. He doesn't do things for us. And so that's when people think of Josh Hawley in Missouri, that's what they think about, right? And that's why he's deeply unpopular here. And when we have an unpopular incumbent and we have a good challenger against them, Missourians will go either direction, right? And so, for example, here's a good one. In 2016, that was the worst year for Democrats in Missouri at presidential level. Donald Trump won by 17 points, yet still another military veteran like me, a guy named Jason Kander, he was in the Army, I was in the Marine Corps. He ran against a long-term incumbent, Roy Blunt. He'd been in the U.S. Senate for a long time, Congress before that in Missouri, and he came within 3 points of winning. So, if that's 15% of Missourians are switching their vote, we don't have to overcome a 15% deficit anymore. And Josh Hawley, way less popular than Roy Blunt was. So, we got a good opportunity, and Missourians are willing to vote for the guy, not just for the party.
Right. And I want to focus more on what you just said, because, to me, what you just said about Josh Hawley, I find him to be egregious and someone who just isn't representative or becoming of a U.S. senator. But what is your message to voters, and what have you found works particularly with Josh Hawley supporters? How are you having those conversations with Hawley supporters and Republicans?
Yeah, his biggest weakness, and this isn't even policy stuff, is just that he stands for nothing, right? Like, he's a fraud, right. He's a coward. He'll say one thing 1 minute and another thing next, and people feel like they want someone to represent them, who has a record of service, and who will actually stand up for something. I mean, even if he had pumped his fist on January 5th or on January 6th and then gone out there and like doubled down on it, I think people would respect him more than because at least then he maybe would have believed in something rather than just a charlatan who was trying to take advantage of a moment and then ran away. So, one of the things I focus on my campaign, which is huge in Missouri, Missouri economically has just been absolutely gutted over the last 20 years. And so one of the reasons for that is that our politicians have been bought off by massive corporations. They fund their campaigns, and then these guys make decisions that let these corporations strip Missouri for parts. So, I take no money from corporate PACs, no federal lobbyists, no money from big pharma, no money from big fossil fuel executives. I don't think that members of Congress or their families should own stock, period, because they make decisions based on their stock portfolio, not other things. Those are the types of things that resonate. And the last one, or really the reason for that, is that people in Missouri, we just want to have power for ourselves again. We got to be able to make our own decisions. We want to be able to take care of our own lives. You'll see that at the ballot box. People are always shocked at the measures we've passed here in Missouri statewide on ballot initiatives. So we legalized medical marijuana and then recreational marijuana at the ballot box. We expanded Medicaid at the ballot box over the state legislature. We passed a minimum wage increase, $5 over the federal level. Like, people are shocked. Like, wait, Missouri raised its minimum wage $5? And we're the only state in the union, the only one who overturned the anti-union right to work legislation passed by a state legislature. And we did that 68%, 32%. So it's really just a populous state where people want to have power. Josh Hawley, he's all about controlling people, right? He wants to control you in the bedroom, the doctor's office, at work. I don't know if you've seen this. He's got this book coming out called Manhood, where he wants to tell everybody that to be a man, you got to be just like him. I mean, it's just weird and creepy. And so people don't like that.
That's a good reminder for everyone listening, especially with those down ballot races and those down ballot initiatives. That's really amazing to hear. I want to ask you more about, you mentioned the economy, and I think traditionally a lot of people find that the Republicans are better on the economy than Democrats. I'm wondering, how are you framing it in terms of you as a Democrat and what Democrats have been doing that would help the economy, and how that resonates with Missouri, with people in Missouri?
Yeah, well, I mean, these guys have sold out to their campaign funders, and they've literally let our state get stripped for parts. They've let all our companies get sold overseas, our farmland get sold overseas. They've made a bunch of just very bad decisions for massive corporations. They keep trying to cut the corporate tax cut rate here, like the second time in 2 years. This is the state level. But what you see is really, all those things that I was talking about at the ballot box, all of those were for the economy, right? I mean, to overturning right to work, that was for people to have better jobs and more opportunity in the workplace. Medical and then recreational marijuana, that's so that we can grow plants, we can create a new economy, we can tax it and make it safe. That's for the economy. Medicaid expansion brought like $9 billion to the state. I don't remember the exact numbers, so don't quote me, and created a bunch of jobs. And so these things that you're looking at that we passed, and then obviously minimum wage, right? That's for us to be able to participate in an economy that works for us. Josh Hawley was against every single one of those things. So the people are trying to take back power in their economy, and Josh Hawley is fighting it, every single step of the way. And so here, I mean, we focus on it's really easy to decide what to focus on when the people have already passed it, right? You're right. This is what I want to do for our economy, and this is what he's against. And here, it's not like some pie in the sky stuff that we got to explain, because these are things people actually voted for, they want, and we have several more coming up. So it's pretty simple.
Yeah, the contrast couldn't be clearer. And I'm wondering, so let's say, I really hope you get elected, but when you go to the U.S. Senate, one of the biggest issues I think Democrats are concerned about is the filibuster and how that prevents certain change from happening. What is your stance on the filibuster, and do you support getting rid of it if you become senator?
Yeah, of course we should get rid of it. This is just another tool of the status quo, right? They have to buy off fewer and fewer people if there's a filibuster in place in order to keep us from having the things that we want and need. And so, when you're at 60, maybe you've only got to buy off 40 people, although usually it's only a couple, right? Because it's going to be fairly close. And so, you see that with Big Pharma on Kirsten Sinema being able to keep things from happening. And you see that with big fossil fuel companies and Joe Manchin. Of course, I'm talking about Democrats, right? Or at least used to be a Democrat for one of them. But just when you have the filibuster in place, it's just fewer and fewer people that you have to buy off. And so for me, I think you got to get rid of it so that we can do things for ourselves, because it's just another tool of big money in politics.
Yeah. The one last question I have for you is, your state is home to many great universities, and this is a show that tries to attract young voters. How are you reaching out to young voters ahead of your election, and what has been the response from young people in Missouri?
Yeah, I mean, it's really strong. So we hire pretty much all of our staff are young Missourians. So we find people in the state who are connected, who are excited, who came up through our universities. I know I've got these guys who went to all of them, and so they're always we always meet people who go to the universities, and I was like, "Go Bears!" or "Zoo" or whatever else. It's pretty fun. And I went to the University of Missouri for law school, so I spent time there too. But I think the biggest issue for young people in this state, and this is aside from the usual ones you would expect, right? I mean, there's student debt is
Right.
ridiculous. Not being able to access abortions is keeping people out of the state and stuff. So there's kind of the normal ones, but a big one here is just we have an economy that doesn't really let people stay in the state. Like there's not enough opportunity here. Again, most of our big corporations have been sold out of state or overseas. There's been no antitrust enforcement, no opportunity to get access to capital in order to start a small business. So if you want to be entrepreneurial, you can't really do it very easily in Missouri. There's maybe a good old boys network where you could break in if your dad knew somebody, but otherwise you're not going to be able to. And so for us, it's access to capital, access to markets, the ability to stay close to home. We need to put in good high-speed internet across the state so that people who want to stay in the state they grew up in and they found a remote work job can actually stick with that remote work job and things like that. So it's actually just the ability to let people stay in this state.
Right.
Besides sort of the normal one, education. And if you get young enough, I mean, this is really sad, but a huge percentage of Missouri school districts only have 4-day school weeks right now, and it's growing because there's not enough money in the state to support the education system due to a bunch of tax cuts and other rearrangements that the Republicans have done here. So, if it's someone who's really young and fresh out of that, that's an issue too. That's kind of unique.
Absolutely. Well, where can our audience go to support your campaign and get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to lucaskunce.com. It's just my name.com. And you can follow us on Twitter at lucaskunzmo. MO's for Missouri. We're on Instagram that way. My wife has an Instagram account. She puts up sort of like the fun stuff too. We're on Facebook and everything else. But yeah, go to the website. Check us out on Twitter. We love getting more followers. We love it when you get engaged. Spread it to your friends. That's really what we need. If you want to donate, another thing about our campaign is we have one of the highest percentage of grassroots fundraising in the entire country because, again, I don't take money from all these other groups. And the reason that I do that is because I grew up in a working class neighborhood. My parents got married young. They had 4 kids. We went bankrupt from medical bills. It was very hard growing up. And the only reason we made it is because people in that neighborhood took care of us. And when I look back on that neighborhood, it's falling apart because people have been taking money from the wrong people and not supporting communities like the one I grew up in. And so for me, the only people I want to ever owe are everyday Missourians, people like that. So that's why I don't take a lot of that money. So our average donation is like $30. So, anybody can do that too. It'll help us out. It's not really the amount that you give. It's the number of donors we get that really shows what a strong grassroots campaign we have. But otherwise, it's on social.
Yeah, no action is too small. And Lucas, you're running a great campaign. So much for all that you are doing. And for our audience, go to lucaskunce.com and volunteer, donate some money because we need to get Josh Hawley out. And I really believe that you are running an amazing campaign. So thank you for your voice and your candidacy.
Thanks, Victor. Oh, it's a pleasure being on here.
Thanks so much. Bye, Lucas.
You bet, man.
Okay, well, Lucas is a great candidate. Hopefully all of you enjoyed that episode with Lucas. Go to lucaskunce.com if you want to get involved. You can phone bank, you can volunteer, donate some money. Josh Hawley, as we all know, is one of the worst, I think, senators out there. Just someone, we can all remember that one picture where he held up his fist and basically ran away from the very supporters who he egged on January 6th. And he was someone who rejected the results of the Missouri election. He was someone who rejected the results of certain states And it was just one of those moments where we have to elect better people into office, and 2024 is that moment that we can do so. The last time there was a Democrat in this state was Claire McCaskill in 2018, and let's bring that back, because I think Missourians deserve much better than Josh Hawley. A couple of things I want to get into before I let you all go for the week. The first piece of news that I saw over the weekend, and I'm sure all of you have been paying attention to this, is Trump's rally in Waco. The one silver lining behind all of that, despite just the kind of historical significance and disturbance of him going to Waco as his first campaign rally. Remember, this is his first campaign rally of the 2024 election cycle. The most, I think, the I guess heartwarming part of it is that no cable outlet covered it. As we remember in 2016 and 2020, the amount of times that cable outlets gave Trump free coverage and free airtime for his rallies was quite disturbing. And this time, no cable outlet, including Fox, so MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, none of them carried that rally, which I thought was a step in the right direction, because, and I laid this out on Twitter. I think there's a lot of nuance to it, but, I think we should still cover what Trump says, because if you watched any of the clips from Waco, Texas, it's kind of really dangerous stuff. I mean, he is spreading dangerous propaganda, dangerous rhetoric to his supporters, calling for violence, calling on his opponents to be locked up and held accountable. It's just not normal. And so I think for cable outlets, I think it's important for them to still cover what Trump says, but they can do so in a way where they don't broadcast his rallies that go on for hours and hours and give him free airtime to spread lies. And if they do, then they need some sort of fact-checking system, or some sort of system that will hold him accountable and hold his words to accountable. Otherwise, he just gets another platform to spread his lies. And so I think for cable outlets, I think, really making sure they find the right clips, they find the right moments to make sure they tell their audience that this is what Donald Trump is still saying, right? We still need to make it clear to his supporters and just to all of us that this is what Donald Trump is doing. He's not being, he's not becoming any saner. He's not becoming any, less extreme. He's becoming more extreme, and that's scary. I mean, even on Saturday, one of the things he said was, how he hates Ron DeSantis, and how Ron DeSantis is screwing up Florida. And it's like, if Ron DeSantis, who is probably the worst governor in the country, is screwing up Florida, you just have to begs the question: what will they tolerate? I mean, what is a policy to them? They have no policies, and to attack someone like Ron DeSantis, it makes me fearful what they actually want. And so I think cable outlets should really cover that. And Kathleen Bellow, who is a professor at Northwestern, does a lot of work on white supremacy, white nationalism movements, had a great thread yesterday about just the significance of Waco, Texas, and why Waco, as the point of kind of Donald Trump's rally, really sets up a dangerous precedent and dangerous just kind of model for his supporters to think that violence is okay. So it's going to take all of us to get involved and make sure that we push back and not allow someone like Trump to be to win. So that was the first piece of news that was disturbing. A couple of things, other things that caught my attention this weekend. First was yesterday, Jen Psaki. She did her second show on MSNBC, Inside with Jen Psaki. The one piece of the one thing that I thought was amazing about that show was she had on Maxwell Frost. She did a profile of Maxwell Frost, and Maxwell Frost is, as probably many of us know, is the first Gen Z member of Congress, and she asked her everything. She asked him everything about his love for vinyl records, gun violence, his being a Gen Z member of Congress, whether or not he has housing, and it just reminded me of why it's so important to have Gen Z perspectives and voices and just conversations in both the media and in politics. Maxwell Frost is a great representative for Gen Z, and I think he brings just a really fresh perspective. You don't really see many elected officials going to vinyl stores or knowing what the term Coachella means, but yesterday he was explaining how he had explained basically to a bunch of his fellow representatives and elected officials that what Coachella meant, and that's just a really kind of core element of pop culture for young people. And so it was a great moment, and I urge all of you to check that out. Maxwell Frost is doing an amazing job as the representative from Florida, and I think all of us hopefully can give him some love, because he really is doing amazing stuff. The last thing I want to point out is that Alvin Bragg responded to Jim Jordan directly the other day. And basically Jim Jordan on Friday and a bunch of Republicans sent a letter to Alvin Bragg basically saying they want him to testify, even though there's no jurisdiction to do so. Over the weekend, or on Friday, Alvin Bragg responded to Jim Jordan and those Republicans and said, you're basically trying to impede on an ongoing investigation. You have no authority to do so. Jim Jordan responded, double down on Saturday. And then Alvin Bragg responded to Jim Jordan, basically saying that what you are trying to do, he didn't use the word obstruction, but basically is obstruction of an ongoing proceeding. And it's, again, highlights Jim Jordan's just complete lack of understanding of how government works, but also the fact that Alvin Bragg isn't going to back down. And I think that's a very telling sign for a lot of people who might be doubtful of Alvin Bragg. He's not backing down. He's going to follow the facts where they lead, just like he said in that letter. And for those Republicans who try to intimidate him, I think I would just warn them that they are barking up the wrong tree. I think really that. I think we're starting to see kind of this formation happen between Republicans who are attacking anyone who goes after the law, and that's one thing that kind of prevents what Republicans are trying to do, and also what is actually makes up a democracy and rule of law system. So Republicans are scared, and I think it's really, really showing right now. That's all the news I have for you today. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm currently in San Francisco I'm on spring break. I'm around in San Francisco doing some travel and having some fun. So there is some spotty internet, but I am able to join from my phone, and hopefully tomorrow I'll be back to regular mode where I'm not vertical and I'm horizontal and I can fill your screens. But nonetheless, thank you all so much for watching this episode of On the Move. Hopefully you enjoy this with Lucas, and you will go to lucaskunce.com to help his campaign. Follow him on Twitter, on his social media. I think he's running a great campaign. So hopefully we can chip in and help. Really, no action is too small. And just a quick programming note for the rest of the week. I will be back tomorrow and Wednesday. Tomorrow I'll be joined by Asha Rangappa, who, as you all know, is a great legal analyst, someone who is great on Twitter. And also on Wednesday, I'll be joined by Representative Jamal Bowman from the great state of New York to talk about some of his issues that he's working on, also TikTok, so you don't want to miss that. And then on Thursday and Friday, Rachel Vindman and JoJo from Jurors will be guest hosting, because I'll be in New York and I won't have the capacity to host, but they will be keeping the chair warm while I am in New York. You don't want to miss that. Every day this week, it's going to be at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on youtube.com/Politicon. You don't want to miss an episode. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in learning more about Gen Z and just the news of the day. It'll be an exciting week, but I'll be here again tomorrow and Wednesday with Asha Rangappa as well as Jamal Bowman. So you don't want to miss them. And then later this week, we have some special guest hosts. So it'll be a fun week, and I'm excited to be joined with for all of you to join us. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully you had a great weekend and you have a great rest of your Monday. I will see you all tomorrow.